there is this confusion regarding effortlessness. And to be honest, it is a very difficult topic because it's very difficult to explain this. But I will try my level best. You see, you will hear many teachers say that you have to strive for self-realization. While at the same time, the other teachers will say that you have to be completely effortless in order to realize the self, the true self. Now, these two things seem contradictory. So the seeker is confused whether to put effort or not. Or if one is to be effortless, how exactly does one achieve that? Because even to be effortless, to be thoughtless, requires effort. So, this is the confusion, this is the paradox we have, because at one point we are using the mind to investigate the truth, but the truth is beyond mind. So, how does it happen? Well, you see, there is one thing for sure, that if you have come across this path where a certain message has resonated with you, whether it's non-duality or it's Buddhism or it's Christianity or it's any other philosophy, one thing is sure, that a lot of contemplation, self-inquiry will happen as a practice till this sense of personal identification is there. So Ramesh Balsekar would call this a concept. Even the sadhana, the practice that happens before self-realization, is also a concept. The apparent doer entity undertakes meditation, self-reflection, contemplation, and other different means of investigation into the nature of truth. And that is where the constant struggle to attain something permanent happens. Because the seeker is seeking something other than itself as a permanent state, which is usually termed as enlightenment or self-realization. And the irony is that the apparent existence of the individual itself is suffering, is a separation from the source. Now the question is, so what should one do? Since there is no possibility for the mind, should we abandon the inquiry? Or should we continue the inquiry? To which I say, let what happens happen. If you think you can suspend the inquiry, suspend it. If you think you can continue with any practice that can lead you to any state of self-realization, do it by all means. You don't have to follow any particular system, any particular philosophy, not even non-duality. If you think Vipassana meditation can bring you to a deep insight, do that by all means. But eventually, all practices lead to the complete emptiness or shunya. That emptiness cannot be explained in words. But once the mind has had even a glimpse of it, the mind completely gives up all movement. So, in that instant, the apparent seeker who was seeking something other than himself or herself suspends the seeking. That is the end of all self inquiry. So, you know what has happened there? In that instant, all separation from the source has ended. So, you realize that you are the source. You are the pure potential, the pure consciousness, the all pervading, omnipresent consciousness. So, mind cannot help in that instance. There is no other option for the mind to move, so it becomes still. It is not that this realization comes to the mind as a thought that, see, I have been seeking for so long and I have followed so many gurus, I have gone to so many ashrams, I have studied so many scriptures, I have done so much effort. All of that story associated with me, the individual seeker, drops away in that moment. Because there is an instantaneous, spontaneous shift in perception from the limited to the infinite. So now there is no apparent entity from whose limited perspective the world is seen. Now the world is seen in a very different light. So the mind gives up, realizing the futility of effort. But till that happens, the mind will put effort. Either it will be through listening to teachers, or it will be through traditional practices like yoga, meditation, philosophy. Some or the other means will be there. But once the glimpse of the absolute is seen, then all effort is dropped. The glimpse itself means effortlessness. So I'm not going to tell you whether you should practice or should not practice. In fact, no true teacher will ever tell you to stop a practice or to start a practice. Because what practice this apparent me takes before the dissolution of the individual happens, that cannot be predicted by any guru. So there is no one path to self-realization. There is no one teaching, one method to self-realization. Something that can put you into that emptiness. The emptiness means the absence of you. Till you think that you are doing the practice, that there is an apparent entity here doing the practice, trying to block thoughts to achieve self-realization or spontaneous awakening, till that time the struggle will happen. The effort will happen. But the moment the reality is seen, and there is nothing the individual can do about that. So neither the individual has to quit their practice, nor they have to adopt a new practice. If you think you want a new practice, do it by all means. If you think you should drop your practice, even try that. But eventually, it is not in your control. The awareness, the source decides when the seeking will end, because it is the source that started the seeking. The individual's concern with my enlightenment, my self realization, is what brings suffering. So, this whole process, the way I imagine it, now this is just my concept. It is not the way it is, but it is my concept to explain this conceptually. But it is something like this. It's just what Ramesh Balsekar said, that the ego realizing its non existence raises this one last question before self realization. And that question is, who is this me? If I am not the doer of my actions, who is this me? This is the last thought before self realization happens. Not to the individual. The self realization is an impersonal happening to no one. So if any thought comes afterwards, after the question, who am I? That means the ego or the sense of personal identification is still continuing in horizontal time. Because the mind is very complex. It will keep convincing you that you need more practice, that you need to go to this teacher or that teacher, that you need to study this or that. It will keep driving you in a circular, endless loop. You will always find your life in a circular, never-ending loop of suffering, pleasure, pain, pleasure. But once the reality is seen for what it is, even when that loop continues for the apparent individual, you are free from it. So, in other words, you were never bound by karma. Karma is only for that one which believes itself to be the doer. I don't know if this makes sense or not, but it is very difficult to explain, because the word realization, recognition, understanding, these words are not just conscious. They run deep into the subconscious and to the unconscious, and unconscious does not belong to an individual. So when when we say these words that I am not the doer, if it's just on the conscious surface of the mind, if it has not penetrated deep into your being, then what will happen? Then a great contradiction will happen. And the contradiction will be that you will keep repeating to yourself that I am not the doer, but at the same time you will keep asking how to achieve enlightenment or self-realization. And that is a trap. Now, Ashtavakra Gita says it in very simple and plain words, that you are the witness of the phenomenal world. So you are eternally free. Here in this instant, you are free. So there is no need for any effort. So the suffering of seeking will continue till there is an effort happening. But when the effort drops, everything becomes clear, because then the mind is still. It is in harmony with the universal consciousness. In that instance, the I thought has merged back into the source, as was said by Ramana Maharishi. So it is absolutely useless to waste time in thinking, what practice should I do? Which is the best practice? Who is the best teacher? You are not in control of any of that. You will be provided the best teacher, but you are not in control of whether the teacher will be in living form, or the teacher will be in the form of books, or in some other form. You are not in control of that. Until you are fixated to one particular idea where you think that a certain process in a certain way has to happen for you to realize the self with a capital S, then you are caught up in a loop. The loop of pleasure and suffering. Because some days you will feel you have attained the self and you will be immersed in bliss. And the very next day you will be down with depression. One day you will feel love for all the people, and next day you will you will feel like killing everybody. So all the contradiction happens till there is a seeker trying to seek anything. So this whole question of effort or effortlessness is not in the hands of the individual. Sometimes the effort will happen, and sometimes the effort will become effortless. And there will be a time when the effort will completely drop. But the individual entity, who is a part of the dream, does not decide that. Now see, when I say everything is will of God, even then there are some people who ask me, there was this girl, and she was a follower of Sai Baba, Shirdi Sai Baba. Now she told me that I want Sai Baba, I want the Baba to just fill my heart with love. So what can I do? So I told her that it will happen as per the will of God, as per the cosmic law. She said, I understand that. I agree to that. But still I want Baba's love in my heart. Now you see the contradiction. Somehow this individual feels that they can control this process. So I told her that, okay, you do whatever you think you should do. You want to do japa, you want to do kirtan, devotional singing, you want to go to pilgrimages, do anything which you think will, awaken your heart with Baba's love. But the consciousness that was Sai Baba is not different from you. That is the consciousness that is you. Once there is a recognition of that, that is when the devotion becomes complete. Till the individual has not recognized its true nature, his or her true nature, the effort will continue to happen. We are neither stopping the effort, we are neither trying to continue the effort as an instruction. So do whatever you think you need in this moment, but eventually only that will happen which is destined by the universe. If this is fully accepted, then there cannot be any resistance to what is. Then the arrival has already happened.